Hey, welcome back. Over the past year, I have had the privilege of spending it with these two buds, and it's been interesting. Not because they're the new gaming consoles that helm the next generation, but because they're 100% digital. They don't have a disc. This drive can't do the physical game thing. Marching into this new generation, I made a very conscious choice to go digital with the Xbox Series S and the PS5 Digital Edition. I know what you're thinking. No trade-ins, no lending or borrowing games. What if your favorite series just vanishes off the digital marketplace? And you're right, you're completely justified for feeling that way. But now that I've actually walked a year in these digital shoes, I can account for a journey that's been, well, rather unexpected. So why go all digital? Over the past few years, I've made a deliberate choice to own a little less. I've moved around a couple times, lived in studio apartments, and in the process, not only did I have to part ways with a lot of stuff, but I haven't actually missed it, especially the cases. That is, with the exception of a few games, of course. Now, naturally, out of necessity of my living condition, my habits shifted to an all-digital future. By the tail end of the PS4 generation, I had completely gone digital. So, when this new generation rolled in with digital-only options, well, I saw this as an opportunity for me to just go all in. When it comes to the two consoles and which one enables a lifestyle better, there's no contest. Xbox has put its pillars for a digital future with Game Pass and cloud gaming. It's the console I turn on every single day. And Quick Resume, a feature I didn't foresee meaning anything to me at first, has put me in awe after booting up Skyrim several weeks after not playing it. Or whenever I pop Katamari Damacy back on to roll the stress away. The feature is sort of like magic, and something one, can't be done with physical games, and two, something not available on the PS5. The other big thing that Xbox has spoiled me with is, yeah, Game Pass. Didn't see that one coming. No, but really, it's not just the fact that it has a massive library. It's the ability to taste and sample so many different things with a low commitment. This is where, strangely, I kind of regret getting the PS5 digital. As of this moment, the PS5 has only tickled toes with the ability to try new games before buying them. Trial versions are available, but specifically only for Death Stranding and Sackboy's Adventure. And the feature is only available in the UK, so way to go, Brits. Really got one in there. When faced with a game like Returnal, a game that I'm interested in, but I'm not entirely sure I want to drop $70 on, this is one of those scenarios that would have been perfect if a friend had owned a copy and I'd be like, yo, let me borrow it, let me try it before I buy it, but that simply isn't the case, so I haven't actually played it at all. In a way, Xbox has kind of warped my purchasing habits in that regard. On the flip side of this is a game like Forza Horizon 5, a game I would have never gone out of my way to buy or play. But because it was on Game Pass, I am now trying it, and to my surprise, I think it's absolutely incredible. Something I would have never known otherwise unless I was able to just ease in and give it a shot. It's worth mentioning that the Series S is the inferior of the two consoles, both on a hardware and storage level. But its price made it a compelling entry point, especially for someone like me who is not versed in the Xbox ecosystem. Because initially, I was planning on the PS5 being my primary console with the Series S for everything else. But in actuality, here we are a year later, and the Series S is the one I turn on every single day. Simply put, the Series S has amplified my digital gaming lifestyle, and though not as powerful, I've ended up buying more games on it as it's the console I know I turn on more frequently. For the time being, the PS5 has been my Demon's Souls and Deathloop machine. But, and this is A big but, as this is all according to my personal experience as a contemporary gamer playing mostly new games. So, this next section is where we get into the not so exciting parts of our digital future. Recently, there's been a bit of a ruffle in the digital marketplace for some games, and for some of you, it'd be enough for you to think twice before marching off into this daring or maybe naive all-digital future I've chosen. First, there's Jump Force, the anime crossover fighting game. Publisher Bandai Namco is pulling the game from digital storefronts in February 2020. That's my cat. She thought now would be a good time to announce her presence. Publisher Bandai Namco is pulling the game from digital storefronts in February 2022, with its internet lobby shutting down later that year in August. Yes, its offline content will still be playable, and those who purchased it digitally will still have it. Despite lobbies being shut down, online PvP battles will still work, just not ranked ones. There she is. Second is Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. Konami are temporarily removing the games from digital storefronts so the publisher can renew the license for select historical archive footage used in each game. If you own them and have them downloaded, you're good. That is, unless you want to re-download them. Then you won't be able to until they're put back on the digital storefront. But according to Konami, this is supposedly only temporary. Do you see a bird? Are you distracting me? Yes. Okay. Lastly is Grand Theft Auto Definitive Edition. This one's a little complicated. Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, and San Andreas have faced issues with certain music tracks being removed from their in-game radio stations due to music licensing. Which isn't a new problem, by the way. This has persisted with the series ever since it came to PC. Like Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, licensing is contractual and only lasts for a certain amount of time unless renewed, and sometimes that may not be. The result is that a list of songs you may love are missing from GTA's soundtrack. And these are problems that simply do not exist on their physical versions if you own them and have a means of playing them. There's still one other major issue with the GTA Trilogy The Definitive Edition. Weeks before its launch, Rockstar delisted the original versions of the games from digital storefronts, making this new iteration the only available version. A version, mind you, that launched with uneven performance, loads of bugs, and was swiftly removed from the Rockstar's PC launcher within a week of its release due to its technical issues. On November 19, 2021, Rockstar issued an apology announcing plans to patch the Definitive Edition and are relisting the original versions of the games. For the gaming medium, it can sometimes feel like its legacy is being written in sand. And more, that feels poignant, especially with big companies like Rockstar just being able to disable past versions of their games. Of the current consoles, Xbox is leading the charge in preserving its legacy content thanks to a lofty catalog of backwards compatible games, many of which are available digitally on its storefront. A lot of these games are even getting enhancements like HDR support and FPS boosts. In these cases, it feels like Xbox is doing more than to preserve them, but actually give them longevity. On the other hand, Nintendo has shown a more curated attempt at its preservation with N64, Super Nintendo, and Nintendo games through its online membership. But even still, the whole thing has been mishandled, and consumers aren't very happy about it. Ports aren't entirely faithful, some of them are just straight up broken, and it's locked behind a membership plan. So even if you bought digital versions on the Wii or Wii U, you can't play these versions on your Switch. Lastly, Sony doesn't appear to be actively doing anything aside from small glimpses through its PS Now subscription service. Sony swiftly backtracked its initial decision to shut down the PS3 and Vita storefront, but the PSP is gone for good. But even still, though the stores remain open, many payment options to support them are disappearing. Then there's the infamous case of the greatest horror game that never was, PT. the playable teaser for Hideo Kojima's Silent Hills. After the game's cancellation, Kojima and Konami parted ways, and the game was removed from PSN. As of now, there's no way to get it unless you already had it downloaded for your PlayStation 4, which is such a commodity that there are people selling their PS4s on eBay that have PT installed on them. So, as I move forward in what I view as an inevitable, all-digital focused future and witness some missteps of preserving the past, I have in turn gone the absolute opposite direction that I set out on a couple of years ago. And honestly, I still really haven't quite come to terms with how this all happened. And what was a deliberate choice to get rid of it and consolidate has somehow turned into me procuring a CRT TV, a PlayStation 1, and a Dreamcast. It's not entirely nostalgia either. It's rather experiencing these games the way they were intended, on the hardware they were built for, on the displays they were meant to be seen on. In fact, I'm not only collecting games I've already played, but instead trying to get ones I never have before, stuff that I missed out on, like Shenmue and Seaman and D2. Worth every penny. Now, of course, there's ROMs and emulation, and I'm well aware of what that does for games in which the original publishers have abandoned. But for me and the experience I've gone through, it's not so much about the digital preservation as it is about the physical representation of games from the past, especially considering that the physical side is a fleeting one. I'm not entirely sure how I got here, but if I'm able to compare it to anything else, it's probably how I listen to music. I listen to a lot of music. I'm an avid music listener, always trying to find something new, and I do that using digital streaming services. But once I find an album that I love, I usually go out of my way to buy it on vinyl. And then of course, I put it on my record player and listen to it with the speakers that I have from start to finish with complete immersion. And in a way, it's kind of like me buying Tekken 3 on the PS1 to play specifically on a CRT TV. And the whole experience is kind of rather a meditative one. And I know that sounds a little pretentious, honestly, but it's in these practices, listening to music in a certain way that demands my attention, playing games as they were meant to be played, kind of allows me to value them a little more in a way that I probably wouldn't get if I were to just load up a ROM. There's nothing against those who choose to play games that way. This is just me and how my brain works and how the drilling outside works. It's okay. You get the point. Do I have any regrets? No, not really. Sure, I can't try before I buy with games like Returnal, but if I'm being completely honest, if I really wanted it, I would have just bought it. In this journey, however, probably the most interesting revelation was, or is, this growing appreciation for legacy games, specifically getting them physically. In a way, going digital has made me appreciate the physicality of the past, one that I don't anticipate is coming back, while also comfortably accepting what will most likely be the digital future.